Good afternoon. We'd like to call the Carroll County Board of Commissioners work session for Tuesday, April 24th, 2018 to order. Starting off on the work session agenda, item number 1, a comprehensive plan update. We're going to call on Ms. Janet Hyde, County Planner, Community Development. Get us going, Pete. Pete's coming. Hand it to him.
Okay, let's try this again.
There you go, Pete. Thank you.
Okay, as you all know, we've been working on an update of the comprehensive plan that is due by October. The first and probably most integral part of that plan is the future land use map. We've had public meetings, we had a survey, we've had meetings with a steering committee that consists of Commissioner Michelle Morgan, Matt Wyndham from the Water Authority, Terry Jones from the Board of Education, Donna Lackey from Carroll Tomorrow, and along with that input, a few of the commissioners have voiced their opinions about some of the drawing. I want to first refresh your memory about the old future land use, the one that we're using right now for zoning decisions. And I'm going to give you all a copy of the updated one, but this is the old one. You can see there are two distinct areas of growth that are yellowish tinted. We have now taken that and made it one color. The reason this was different in the past was these were growth areas around the cities, around Villa Rica, around Carrollton, around Bowden. We've talked with Carrollton and Villa Rica. They both have said that they do not think that they're going to have any planned growth. I mean, not to say that they won't grow, but they're not going to plan for that growth. And so we have turned this into just one yellow color, which is residential. You may recall that this section that was the bright yellow was an area that was to be a regional sewer plan, regional sewer in the future. That idea has now gone out the window. So we've turned that into the same yellow as the residential that's around the cities. That's the main difference in the old future land use and the new future land use. We did add an industrial corridor along 27, an industrial buffer around the airport, and you'll see that on the map. But we did, and the other thing is, excuse me, we did expand some green space over to the Little Tallapoosa. So those will be the main changes that you'll see, and I'll bring the other map up now. Do you have any questions about the old map?
On the yellow, you say it's all you've done it residential?
Yes, ma'am.
Because the part that's going up, isn't that 61 going up through here, north, right here?
This is 61.
Okay.
There's still a commercial corridor along 61.
Okay. But the rest of that is zoned residential?
Not zoned residential. It's the future land use.
Okay, the future land
Yeah.
use. Okay, is for residential though?
Yeah, and we have to be careful not to
Right.
get confused with those terms, but this is what we consider when somebody comes in for a zoning decision or for a zoning application, whether we would recommend approval or denial based on what the county has decided is going to be the future of the growth. So you'll see, here's that industrial corridor that we put in. This is Walmart.com. This is the buffer around the airport. Again, we moved this green space over to Little Tallapoosa. And then, again, all of the yellow is the same color now. So the plan is to put this out on the website, available for public input for at least 30 days. The text component of the future land use, we have not completed yet. Hope to have that out within the next week to 10 days for you all to review, and then to also put that out for public input.
So I guess there was really no issues with people saying about the, going up 61, other than the commercial easement or whatever's through there. No one had a complaint with all of that being future land use or residential?
Right.
Okay.
The majority of comments that we got from the public input was that people wanted to see the county stay green, keep the ag, mostly like, let's keep the small town atmosphere. Of course, we're not planning for the cities, that's their job. But people like the county like it is. So,
Okay. Fine with me.
any other questions?
There's no sewer.
And again, I've got some copies for you all I'll pass around. And but feel free to call me or my office or Amy if you have any questions. Amy and Pete have been tremendous help in this, so I want to make sure I give kudos to them.
Amy and Pete, thank y'all as well. Janet, thank you. Janet, thank you again. Next, we'll move to item number 2, review the discussion for items of May 1 for the commission meeting. We'll start with financial session 9.1. The recap, we will do that tonight. But Lehman, if you'll tell them the process for the budget presentation.
Yes, sir. On the May 1st, the night of the meeting, the chairman will certainly give you the proposed balanced budget. It's called for in the charter, and then there will be an ad for you to vote on to publish in the paper that will have the proposed budget along with the notice of the time and place for the budget public hearing. And on May 8th, the commission has a work session to go over the chairman's proposed budget and make any recommendation for changes. And on May the 29th, the public hearing will be held for county citizens to submit comments. And then on the first meeting in June, the proposed budget will be submitted for adoption.
Any questions for Lehman? No, we'll go to item 9.2, auction of county property. We call on County Attorney Stacy Blackman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, this is a resolution for proposed sale of county property at an auction. We have some surplus property that Mr. Pope has identified that's listed on Exhibit A, and then we have some lots that are at Fairfield and a couple at Harper's Way that we could consider selling at the auction as well. These are no longer needed, so we're proposing to enter into a contract with Hagan Realty Group, and we'd publish the notice in the paper that we'd have to sell for the auction and take all actions to sell this property. And then if Mr. Pope and the chairman identify any other surplus personal property, this would give them that authorization to do so. Do you have any questions?
Anything for Stacy?
Okay. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Item 9.3, coal planer purchase, Public Works Department. Call on Mr. Charles Pope.
Thank you, Chairman. We sent out invitations to bid on the coal planer on the 10th of the month, and we received the bids back in on the 23rd. We had 3 successful bidders. Border equipment for $32,899 was the highest bidder. Flynn Equipment, $31,000, and Yancey Brothers was the lowest bid at $27,160. And this coal planer is just a smaller version of the big milling machines that you see that done downtown Carrollton and milled all the asphalt. It's just a smaller version than that, where we can mill bridges. When you go up on bridges, the humps won't be so bad, or when we tie in asphalt to new sections.
Is there a particular brand that, you don't have one right now?
We do not have one, no.
Okay.
What's your recommendation?
I'm sorry.
Which one's your recommendation?
Well, I recommend go with Yancey, the low bidder.
Okay.
Okay, Charles, while you were up there, item 9.4 is a replacement truck, Public Works.
This truck, the one that we wrecked, we actually got from the Sheriff's Department. They had seized in 2004. I had an accident January 24th, I think it is, and it totaled the truck. So the insurance paid off on it. And this truck here, the chairman and I was looking at Jordan's truck sales. It's just hard to go out and buy a used truck if you go out of town, because they won't hold it for you. This truck was $34,000. Mr. Jordan said that he would let the county have it for $32,000, and it's available, whenever we get it approved.
Lehman, where's the money coming from for both of these items?
They would be out of the SLOSS fund.
What?
The road line.
Okay, they still have plenty in there for that? Okay, so that just takes away from the road dollar amount?
Yes, ma'am.
There actually is a road equipment actually line in addition to road and then road equipment.
Any questions for Charles? Charles, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 9.5, Integrated Criminal Justice Case Management System. We'll call on Clerk of Court, Mr. Alan Lee, and staff. Yeah. Didn't know who all you brought or what all you brought. I never know. Yeah, I never know. Yeah, sometimes it's you, sometimes I've seen you with a big group, so.
Well, Chairman, I appreciate you allowing us here, and Board of Commissioners, also like to welcome our new commissioner that I got a chance to meet for the first time tonight. I'm in front of you today to actually bring back to bear something that we brought to you in November at a work session, the request for funds to create and continue finishing what we already have, integrated criminal justice system for the purpose of criminal e-filing in Carroll County. Some of you know, I assume all maybe, that we've been running a pilot program for about 2 years now, and we're getting close to the finish of that, and we were approached to try to finish this out with some funds too. So we brought that to you in November. We had a lengthy stakeholders meeting. Some of you remember that we all pledged our support for that. And we moved on from that point to an RFP process. That was my first experience with that, so it's been interesting. We sent out bids, proposal bids on that. We received 5 responses back, and the price disparity on those responses was of consequence. So we reached out and decided to go a certain direction on this. We, at first I thought I would reach out to the Clerk's Authority and get a technical committee of experts together to try to give us a no-nonsense technical recommendation on who they thought out of the responses could actually do what we're asking based on the RFP. They decided after lengthy conversation that they wanted to opt out because they were a little too close to the local factor here, which is the Green Court thing that we already have. So after a little while, they finally let me know that. So I reached out to the District 6 administrator of courts here and ask him to do the same. Could you go and get us a committee of experts, people that know technical, to look at this? And we purposely left out the money part of the proposals. We sent them just the straight data proposals, and we said, here, you tell us what you think of these and who would actually be capable of doing this system the way the RFP is set up, and rank them in order of what you think. We sent that to them. They responded back, and you have that email, I believe. It's probably page 1 or 2, I don't know. It gives the order that they returned, and then the third page is actually the money bids. Part of the concern that I had, because I was a little bit too close, is I didn't want to be interfering in that, so we let them make that recommendation without a whole lot of information. We also took note of the fact that some of the proposals actually did not really include per diem and startup expenses that would, from them having to actually figure out the system and how to build it to the specs where we know we already have here. So that was a big thing with me. We didn't go into that with them. We just took their recommendation, and we're bringing that back to you guys. I just wanted you to understand the lengths that we went to actually make this as unbiased as possible. But we're renewing our request for the funds. And you can see that they've reduced that number to 525 instead of the original request. That's where we're at. And just wanted to want to give the judge a chance to talk if he needed to or wanted to, or if you had any questions. We also have Andy here from Peach Court if you have any questions for him as well.
Well, yeah, I wasn't here for that presentation. I know something about it, but is this request for proposal, is that, it's in our packet, or is that an assessment of all the, abilities or whatever the system has, or?
That's my understanding. The RFP was sent out for us to get back bids to see who could do what we needed done. And when I say we, the whole collective judicial system that presented at y'all's last work session we came, we had everybody involved was here, from the judge's portion to the clerk's office, to the sheriff's office, to the PD's office, to the ADA's office. Everybody on the legal side, on the judicial side, was present as a unified front that this needs to be done. So what we did is, Alan is the one who's actually going to have to facilitate these things through his office. The reason I presented last time is because they felt as though they wanted someone from the judge's side, because we deal with all aspects of the group, all groups. But at the end of the day, Alan is the one who's going to have to really implement this most of all. He and the sheriff's office working jointly. So the RFP was sent out with everything that we needed, especially what Alan's focused on, what he needed. These are the people that replied back and gave a detailed description of what they could actually do. And again, I apologize to repeat what Alan was saying, but because so many people, just point blank, because of where we are and the connections that people know that each and every one of us has with Green Court, it was tough for us to have these come back to us and try to find a way to not seem biased. And so that we could all, however it turned out, could say we did our utmost to make sure that the tax dollars were protected, and we did our due diligence in seeing what needed to be done. And so Alan first reached out to the clerk's authority to see if they could do that. Said, look, here's our RFP, here are the bids, here are the proposals. We need a group of technology experts to review these, and we want y'all to give us back where y'all say these people stand from top to bottom. Clerk's office then said, look, we don't think we can do that because we're too close to all the people involved. Not just Peach Court or Green Court, but some of the other groups that they deal with as well. They didn't want to be seen as picking winners and losers because they deal with other providers. And so we reached out then, or Alan then reached out to our 6th District Judicial Court Administrator and made the same request. And so he then went out and pulled together 6 different experts in this field that I don't know who they are. Now, Alan may, but I have no clue who these people are.
They actually asked to remain somewhat anonymous in this because they do also, some of them deal with the same vendors. One actually, after the process started, initially signed on and then later recused, but they, you know, so they finished out with the ones that were left.
They then came back with the results that you have, from top to bottom. Now, money was left out of that purposefully, not to, again, to make someone look better than the others, but we didn't need money skewing, to begin with, your honest opinion and evaluation of a proposal. Once we got that, to say who could do the best job based on what they're submitting and based on what they have, then we put the money back in. That's when Green Court was substantially higher than the person that was in second. Through conversations with them, we said, look, that you can't have this jump that we have right now. And so they came to where we are now, which is 525, which is not too far off from where second is. Now, what needs to be noted in what was suggested, and as we all know in some of the technology world, a lot of the folks that submitted some of these bids, they're not all-inclusive type bids. What we have with Green Court is people who have spent over 2 years developing a pilot that we all know, those of us that were able to meet at our study session that we had at the courthouse one time. There's been a couple $1 million invested in developing this to this point. And in my honest opinion, I think that some of these other vendors, I don't think they're being very forthright with us or the county commission by saying they could do these things for the amount of money they're saying they can, because they're not acknowledging the startup costs that are going to be involved. What I think we'd run into if we go with the lower bids in this particular situation is we're going to run into, they're going to do the low bid to get the bid. And then they're going to come back next year and say, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that we had to do all these things. But they know they're going to have to do these things. And we're going to end up where they're going to ask for more money. Y'all may decide to give them more money, but at some point in time, y'all are going to say, this is too much, we're out. And Allen is going to be left with a broken system that's not fully done. What we're getting right now from Green Court, is my understanding, and y'all can ask Mr. Johnson to come up if you'd like, is we're getting a commitment to fulfill a duty that they said that they want to commit to us. In other words, they're saying, listen, we're going to make this happen. We've already committed this much of our own money into this pilot. We just need this much to get us over the hump, and we're committed to making that happen. I hope they'll do that. I hope they don't come back and say every year they need more and more and more. But I do know that if we went with some of these lower bids, I can almost guarantee they would have to do that based on everything that those experts told us and what I know about the technology. Does that answer the question?
It does.
I got one question.
Yes.
How is this financially gonna benefit the county? Is it cut jobs, heads? I mean, how's it financially gonna benefit the county?
Well, we went through that kind of extensively at our last meeting when I had everybody else here, and everybody kind of pitched in and gave their part to how that can benefit everyone. From the sheriff saying how it impacted his office, from the DAs, how it impacted their office, and the public defenders, how it impacted their office. The overall theme that everyone had is that this was how to better serve the judicial economy for everyone, how to better preserve and do justice for all. Now, I'm not saying that I have a strict dollar amount, this is how it's going to save this amount of money, but I do know that efficiencies will be made better, and that was made obvious by everyone who stood in unison last time we were here. The efficiencies are there, the benefits for everyone are there, not only for speediness of trial, but speediness of cases. That goes for victims and defendants alike. And that's why you had, it's very unique, Mr. Lee, to have that many people across the board in the judicial, throughout the whole judicial gambit from DA to public defender to sheriff to the judges to all unify and say this is good for judicial economy. And this is something that I think will benefit everyone. But I cannot tell you I have a specific dollar amount. That would have been a question that we had last time, and I was not the one addressing that, so I'm sorry.
Now, you two were here for that presentation
Yes.
last time.
Yes,
So do you all know what this money stands for?
yes,
You do?
yes.
Okay. Do you know?
I do.
You do? Okay. And I can get with you afterwards?
Yeah, so I'd go ahead and tell you, I'm willing to support it.
Okay.
Based on the committee meeting you and I both were in.
Right.
And then further conversations, with individually with you, the sheriff, and stuff like that. But yes, I think it, definitely will make our judicial system much more efficient.
And,
Okay.
we're also getting ahead of what's very likely to become a mandate statewide. And a lot of times when we get mandates, as we all know, they're not always funded appropriately, right? And if we have an opportunity as Carroll County to get out in front of what's is coming down the pipeline, they're gonna make this where everybody has to do something very similar to this. And instead of us being in a position of trying to play catch up, we will be in a position where we're actually able to show off our talents to the rest of the state. And I think that is truly gonna happen.
There's actually a new section in the governor's reform bill this time that requires the clerk to provide criminal e-filing, not necessarily to the extent we're talking about in this pilot, but there'll be some form, so the next steps are gonna be mandated, I'm sure.
Now, is this something like the system that, or, you had always wanted something to help you with numbers and that kind of thing? Does this do any of this at all?
Well, you know, we came in, back prior to 2015 and worked it to where we could get a new case management system where we could get a new case management system in order to be able to e-file on the civil side. And that's gone great. Actually, same company, different type of situation, a lot more in-depth with criminal e-filing. And then it's not a new computer system per se. It's integrated with the computer system that we've got, and Peach Court is actually a hub that's able to pull in all this data from all these different players and disperse it back out to the players. And yeah, it's kind of complicated to understand, but it's basically you got filers filing in, we're receiving. It's actually creating, to your point, is it going to do away with employees? No, not necessarily, because you still have to have the employee to download the stuff, but it may effectively help us not have to have a whole lot more employees as the court increases stuff, because everybody knows that it never slows down. It's always going forward. So, but it's really not requiring us to have a new computer system or anything like that. It's working with what we have. It's actually built for what we have, and it's also able to connect with other agencies like JCATS, which is the public defenders, the tracker, which is and then the sheriff's system, which is the big things. And actually the probation office is filing with us too. So it's actually helping filter in a lot of things digitally that we would normally have to spend the time to manually enter, doing away with a lot of duplicate data entry.
Will this carry a yearly maintenance fee also?
The proposal that we're looking at, that the collective team got back and suggested, which is Green Court. At first, they did have a yearly maintenance fee. However, I've talked with them, Alan's talked with them, I think Commissioner Morgan has talked with them, and all of us unified saying, listen, we really can't have that standing out there not knowing that's an unknown type variable. And so Green Court has committed to waive any yearly maintenance fee, and instead of doing the yearly maintenance fee, just ask that we be polite and courteous when they come to show other people the product, which essentially that's what they're wanting Carroll County to be. They're wanting Carroll County to be their show spot, which is fine with us, because that means you got to have something good to show. It means you want to have something that's top of the line. And they're really doing that now with Alan. And Alan can speak to that, but they're in Alan's office quite often with any type of issues that they may have. They're there whenever they need them. So to accommodate that, I don't think it would be much of an inconvenience, but that's his office, so if he thinks it would be, he would need to speak to that.
No, we receive calls quite regularly and emails requesting how things are going and, and where we're at in the process, that kind of thing. So the other counties are looking at this as well.
And if I'm misspeaking about that, Mr. Johnson's here, but if I misstate anything that y'all are saying and I overcommit you on the financial side, you jump up and say, well, let me add, but that was my understanding of the conversation.
You or any of the other departments aren't going to come and ask for money that has to do with the running of this program or anything going forward. So this is all the money that is needed for this process. Is that,
That's my understanding as well. This is.
well, I don't want you to come back in a month, or 2 months, or 6 months, and you say, oh, man, I need 6 computers, or something like that.
Oh, no, my computers are supplied by the clerk's authority, and,
Well,
we have
I
a-
just use that as an example.
Can y'all be able to charge the, publics for the use of some of it, won't you? Wasn't that in the
There's
plan?
The governor's bills kind of changed things a little bit with us, but there is a revenue share component to things once this goes public. For right now, the state agencies, public defenders, the state is all paid for by, us and the state. So there's not a revenue share area there. But in the future, if it goes public, there is a revenue share area there. And, well, I lost my train of thought, I'm sorry. But, so on the criminal side, there's not so much of a revenue share. It's more of a cost to do business for the courts, so.
Mr. Anderson, to answer your question directly, it's my understanding that that would not be what they're doing. However, if they were to come back and ask for additional money, I would not be sitting here requesting it. Somebody else would be, because that's what it was
You
told to me.
chicken.
No,
Sorry.
no,
Sorry.
it's
Sorry,
not chicken. It's,
Judge.
if you're gonna keep your word to me, then I'm gonna keep my word to you. I'm here because I made a commitment of what was told to me, and and I'm telling you exactly verbatim my conversations. And at our last meeting, I was brutally honest with everybody here, and that's why I had everybody here, because I wanted accountability for what I was saying. And so I'm telling you, this is what I was told. If they want more money, they're gonna have to find another person to come up and ask for it.
Right.
And there may, in the future, be needs for expansion on different levels, but that's not what we're here about today, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about, I'm talking about additions to the scope, I guess you'd say. What we have now is a pilot that's up and running in a system that's just almost complete, and that the funds we're talking about completes that system and gets us back online for it.
And Vicki, if I'm not mistaken, it will help get people through the system and out of the jail, and if we get them out of the jail, that helps our cost. So yes, there will be a cost savings, if I'm saying that right.
There's lots of
Is that-
chances for things
Is that the way I understood?
There's opportunity.
Well, they're just lawsuits in general, if somebody doesn't get re-locked up for a problem and miscommunication, that saves us a lot of money on, just right there,
Okay, then let's go back to Lehman to find out where the money's coming from.
It, I believe, is intended to be paid with SPOS, and there in the SPOS are undesignated dollars that y'all can designate for this.
And how does it meet the criteria for that?
I think it's something, this software system's going to last over 5 years. It has an extended life. And I do think it is a capital outlay, yes.
That's over my head. I have no idea.
That
I
was
know.
my understanding as well, but I'm.
Well, I know,
that's not my-
that's why it comes back to him, as far as the thing. So, the category that we have for SPOS right now, tell me what category it's going under?
Again, the commissioner have some money still in an undesignated line that would cover this, that could be allocated. I do not think we have allocated anything at this point for it, but we do have undesignated money still available
What year, from what year?
from 2013.
13? That's $500,000 that sitting out there somewhere that we don't know about. Okay, we can talk about that.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
And Mr. Tommy Lee, again, to your question about the money, the reason I'm hesitant is because they had specifically other folks that were here last time that spoke that, the sheriff being one, the DA's office being another. And I'm hesitant because I don't exactly remember how they phrased it on the savings, and so I don't want to repeat it. But
It centers around court efficiency is what it is. I mean, it's a big thing. I mean, I could sit here and talk an hour about GCIC, and I'm not going to. A lot of it's that.
I'm good.
Judge, we appreciate it. Alan, too. Andy, the commitment here local. I take it that it says we've got your commitment. We've had it on board. You're going to help Alan make things work. There you go. Alan, we appreciate you working and being a pilot program as well.
thank y'all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, we'll be moving into the business session. Item 10.1 is nominations for the Carroll City County Hospital Authority. That's a prepared letter jointly between city and county. If y'all look and pull up, you'll see the list of names. It has been given to the mayor for them to approve by their city council at their meeting. If you want to add, subtract, or see anything you need to change, please bring that forward.
I would like Fred O'Neill for that, for us to recommend. Is that who? Do we get to
Yes.
make a
No.
recommendation?
All we do is we put forth a list and they choose. But I will say he's highly recommended, yes. They got to give input as well, so. Any other questions?
Nope.
Item 10.2. Let's just, 10.2, 10.3, and 10.4, we'll call on Ms. Stacy Blackman as well. They're all road abandonments, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 3 requests that came to the Roads Department for abandonments. The first one's Clayton Place, and this is where the landowner bought all the surrounding property of a portion of Clayton Place, like the road loops through his property, and so they want to abandon a portion of it and leave a small section where the neighbor would need access over it, and they have the neighbor's written consent. So that's the first one. And do you have any questions on that one? If not, I'll go to the next one. The next one's on Hutchinson Ferry Road, and Mr. Lyle and his wife granted a right-of-way deed, and the road was reworked and paved, and there's a portion of that right-of-way that he granted that's not needed, so he's asked to have that portion abandoned, and it would be 0.15 acres, and his request is that we convey it back to him after going through the proper procedures. And that's shown on that survey. Any questions on that one? And then the last one is Wildwood Lane. This one, Ms. Frazier granted a right-of-way deed to widen and pave their road. It ended up that not enough neighbors on that side of the road granted the right-of-way deed, so they had to end up taking it from the other side of the road. And so she's asked for her land back, basically, but we had to go through this process to do that. And there's just a tiny little sliver of the old road that would go to her as well, because it's on her side of the new road. So we'd quitclaim any area in her whole property, as shown on that survey. And that's all I have on that.
Any questions on items 10, 2, 3, and 4?
Okay, thank you.
Seeing none, anything else from the board? Seeing none, stand adjourned.